Hello everyone, it is Christine here and I am back with my yummy coloured pieces to start work and talk you through the process I'm using to construct elements that are going to make up my texture and fibre art piece of a coral reef. Now I'm also going to be giving you lots of ideas that if you don't have ink tents or don't have a means to dye your own doily and lacy bits, of ways you can look at what you've got in your stash and repurpose those for a texture and fibre art piece. I'm going to be making mine as a large scale one, but I'm also planning, I think, to make some smaller little sort of like brooch sized ones. And so I'm going to be starting the process today to show you how you can both make large scale coral, but also how you can shape some smaller elements that you can then use for a brooch sized little coral reef. So I'll actually put this aside for a moment because these are the bits that we dyed in a previous episode together. So I'll just put them into my lovely little slow stitch container here. And then I'm going to give you some other ideas of supplies so that you can still join in even if you haven't got dyed pieces like this to use. So I'll pop those down here and hopefully Travis doesn't come and try and steal them. So let's start talking some other ideas. Let me start dragging a few bits and bobs down here. So I've started making some elements and this will start to give you some ideas of what you can use. This is made from a piece of lace and it's made from a piece of synthetic lace, one that's not particularly something that I'd necessarily use on my like slow stitch projects, and I have a lot of sort of probably 1960s 1950s laces, so it's a great way to be able to kind of repurpose those. So the lace I've used for this one here is this lace that you can see here. So I think it's a cotton synthetic sort of lace, and I'll show you the process I use to gather it up and then the process I use to sort of twist it around so you get a nice irregular sort of shape. Now obviously this will be for my larger piece because it's quite a large piece of coral, although you could make a brooch just if you wanted to make one in a very neutral tone and maybe put just like a little starfish or a little fish on it. That could still definitely work. So yeah, we'll come back and do one of those together. So I'll pop that on the top of my little tub down there. And then this was just a little edge piece off a fabric that had like a handkerchief design, but it was like a little cut off bit of the handkerchief design and it just had little green dots on it. And again, I've used the same gathering technique to make that one. This is what I'm thinking would be the sort of brooch size that I'm working to, so I'll just put that over there. This was just the edge of a piece of a cut-off piece of linen, something essentially like this, although the ones that have an edge will end up looking a bit more like this one. But often you'll end up with these little edgy pieces if you're cutting out old doilies or linens that have a design on them and maybe they've got a stain, and you'll end up like me, if you're like me, saving these pieces, and this is going to be the perfect project to use all those little long pieces of offcuts etc that you might have. So that's another idea that we'll be exploring, and you can see some more examples of that with an edge with raw edges on both sides. You can see I have started stitching some of my little other bits and pieces together, and we can have a go at doing some of these as well. So with these ones I'm just sort of gathering them to make little seaweedy pieces, but I particularly wanted to show how you could use bits of offcuts, bits of fabric. Did I show you this one? This is using this sort of bluey coloured lace, so often you can find these older vintage second-hand laces, but they're synthetic, so they're not expensive laces. They're not handmade laces, and this has just made the most gorgeous little piece of coral as well. So we can definitely make some more of that together. And I'm getting all tangled, aren't I? So let me just pop this one down so that I've got a bit of a pile of laces we're going to make. This one again is a sort of a cheapy lace. It's actually a bit sort of rubby, like a bit, feels a bit rough I guess, But the good thing about the synthetics is they actually hold their shape really well. And so with this one, I think I just cut off the sort of the edgy bit. Although you could do it with the edge, but I wanted to have sort of raw edges on both sides, not with a sort of a thicker bit. So I'll show you how I did that with that one. Got that one. This is some of, so this is I think it was like a little hanky that I dyed with acrylic paints. So if you're in Australia, Aldi has acrylic paints this week, I think 99 cents for a tube. So I'm sure they're not high quality ones, but they're probably perfectly well to use for dyeing things. And this is a method where you dilute the acrylic right down, so it's almost the consistency of a coffee. And I've got previous videos where I've done that. And so these are the little edge pieces when I've used it for something else. But we can definitely, I'll show you how I'm sort of making a little piece like this that could be an element in a brooch or in my bigger piece. So we'll do that together too. Even ones like this, I could either do it just as a piece like this, or I could cut it into 2 strips and then do a longer gather. If you've got offcuts of colourful fabric, something like this I think will work really well as well, so we can pop that into the mix. These came in a package of vintage ribbons and bits and pieces that I got at the Embroiderers Guild D-Stash. I got it particularly for these beautiful, very vintage antique little children's trims, but these were in there, and I think they would work really well, and I think they're going to have a nice sort of stiffness to them, and they are good corally colours, I think, so we can throw those in. These are some random bits of silk that I also got at that same market, so potentially you can use those sorts of things, like all the lovely colours that you can get in silks. Wools. So lots of us probably have a whole lot of random wools, particularly if you've ever done sort of knitting. I've only ever managed to knit squares and rectangles, but I do collect sort of wools up for the fibre possibilities. And crazy ones like this could be really wonderful for putting together and making some little corally things. I haven't yet started working with this, but wouldn't those colours just be perfect to make little coral elements? Other wools like this lovely bobbly one, that could be fabulous. Just ones that are variegated, they'll be great to incorporate into the piece, because I'm planning to also come in with knots and picot stitches and lots of stitches that look like those ones that come up, I've forgotten what they're called, drizzle stitches, etc. I've got some other pieces. This is a piece of punch needle from when my original Fleur Woods workshop, which I haven't yet done anything into this smaller piece, but that will probably end up part of my larger piece, and I'll use it as a base to do some elements in, and I want to have my larger piece to be quite dimensional. These sorts of like goldy lacy embellishments, so this is just a longer piece that I've then just sort of concertinaed up and needs to have some stitches put through it. These sort of smaller little off-cutty pieces off something, but again they sort of hold their shape quite well, and I think it's nice to intersperse the really colourful with the more neutral tones. I think that's just going to create a good rest for the eye. Even pieces like this, which is probably originally off the lining of something, I think I'll be able to cut strips of that and use that to make some coral as well. So I think we've got enough to go on with. Oh, and I'll also show you how I make these little bobbles that have a pearl inside. Hopefully you can see. Hopefully I've been staying on camera there. I wasn't always watching through the look. So I'll show you how to do those. So let's put our pin to the side. Let's grab out some nice strong thread. I've got my nylon thread here. Oh yes, that's the one I was wanting. These are just little bags that I keep my regular sort of sewing cottons in. This one's a polyester nylon, but it's nice and strong. So I might start off, because I do love how this one looks, I'll start off and show you the method on this here. And we might just we might do this for the smaller brooch, I think, rather than the bigger piece. these could make a lovely Mother's Day gift as well if you're in Australia. I think you've had Mother's Day already in the UK, haven't you? So get ourselves a bit of decent length. Got so much on my little outdoor table here. Hopefully you're enjoying the bird song. I've got my little my friend Chris, her little pin cushion that she so kindly gifted us all at our Fleur Woods retreat this year. And I'm so looking forward to catching up with Chris again next year. In fact, it's going to be a year to the day that we'll be starting our Fleur Woods workshop next year. So it's May the 4th. And so that's going to be uber exciting. So I've just tied a knot in the end of the thread. I'm using this large, what my friend Linda would call my javelin needle. And let me just tap the camera again. And what I'm going to do at the very end, just to try and make sure, because as you could see the end just pulled through, is I'll just sort of put a little extra knot in the end, just to make sure that we've got a secure starting point, because we're going to be gathering up and we don't want to have it sort of pulling through. So I might even do 2 knots just to be sure. Oops, sorry, and I'll try and stay on camera. I might need to bring the camera back a bit to make sure. And I just managed to stop the camera in the process of adjusting the camera, but that's okay, isn't it? So what I will do, I think, is just come up and down through each of the middle pieces. Can't remember if that's what I did on the other one. I've done a few projects since I was starting to prototype these pieces. I know some people have said that their dogs really get excited when they hear the bird song in the garden. I guess if you're watching it inside the video and you've got a dog, they'll probably hear the birds. Travis, I know, certainly would be excited if he heard bird call on a video. It's Sunday here, and I probably won't post this up until tomorrow night, or possibly the next night, who knows. And we've had a lovely weekend, nice and relaxing, done a lot of tidying up and scrubbing down walls at our other place, and we've sorted out the what would you call it, the broom cupboard, but it's kind of the all sorts cupboard in the laundry that just tends to get sort of everything and anything in it. So we did a big sort of that as well, and today we went out for a lovely walk along the aqueduct out here, which is an old aqueduct but now just a walking trail. But it's unseasonably warm. It's going to get even warmer here this week, I think, but today's just a beautiful temperature. I'm in a t-shirt and plenty warm enough. I've got lots of washing on the line. I've got some doilies soaking in the sink. It's just some colour fast nappy sand. That's what I use for my linens to clean them. And when we got home from our walk this morning, I gave Travis a wash, so he feels like a brand new puppy again. And so I'm basically just going up and down and through. It's probably going to not be the most exciting, but I figured you might like to see just how different types of things come together to create the elements. We probably won't put the brooch itself together in this episode. Who knows, I might even do it for one of my upcoming whimsical wearables, which is my little collaboration that I'm doing with my lovely friends Sally and Christy. So the three of us came up with this idea. We all had sort of wearables that we wanted to create, and I think we're coming up with even more ideas of wearables as we go along. So who knows, I might have to save the putting together of the miniature brooch for that episode. I might even do one in advance and then have one to show as an example, and also think we can do one together. So that's just come, and then at the end I just like to put a few knots in place again just to make sure it's securely holding, because this has some lighter sort of colours on it. It doesn't matter using this sort of polyester thread. And then I'll just sort of trim it off, and any little taily bits won't really matter anyway. This coral has all sorts of bits sort of coming off it, doesn't it? So there's a bigger piece and a smaller piece there. So then let me show you on, I was going to show you on a little sort of like edgy piece of a doily. So we can do it on this, or where have I got one that's got a little edge on it? Let's see where I put those. Looking. Oops. Knocking things onto the ground. Where did I hide those other pieces? Did they go into this container? Yes, they did. So I've got that sample one there. And we've got this one to do, but I did have another one, didn't I, with grey on it. So yeah, just an off-cutty bit there. You could definitely, I don't even think I'm going to worry about tidying up those little jaggedy bits, because I think they'll actually just be fine in it. So yep, I think that can just go as it goes. Again, I'll just put another knot in the end to start, and then I'll do an attaching knot at the very end of it. This is a rather large needle, so it does tend to make a larger hole that the knot can pull through. But yeah, enjoying this autumn weather that feels more like a beautiful spring or sort of cooler summer. Not complaining at all. And so with this you can do, if you want to do, like you can do longer sort of gaps between where you put your needle in and out, or you can do smaller ones, depends how sort of gathered you want it to look. But what a great idea to be able to use up those bits that otherwise might not have a purpose, but someone's put some lovely effort into stitching the edging on them, so it's nice to give them a purpose. That's why I've never wanted to throw them out. I figure worst case I can kind of plait them into something for a little tie, but this is going to be a great way to use. I've got a whole jar of them. I've probably got some more jars of them elsewhere, but I've got a big jar of taily bits. Oops, managed to catch my finger in a loop. We don't need my finger to be part of the coral. And you don't even have to stay exactly precisely sort of in the middle. It's not a precise form, this. And it's something great that you could do in front of the TV or watching a video, or and even just do little bits and pieces here and there. Something you could even do as you are cleaning up your desk after a project. If you find some little edgy pieces and you know you want to make some coral reefs, or I mean, you could use these in your little like fungi pieces as well, forest fungi, etc. The neutral coloured ones could be great, or dyeing them green like a piece of sort of lichen or fungus. Orange, they have oranges, don't they, in the fungi, bright yellows. I mean, you get all colours really in fungi. You get some of those purples and blues as well. Alex has taken the car and Travis for a wash, although not Travis to be washed again, just to enjoy the car wash. Travis quite likes going through the car wash with Alex. I'm sure when he gets home he'll come out and stir up some trouble out here. So you can sort of, once you get them done, you can twist them around, which means you then get the edging sort of distributed around. That makes a fun little piece. So that's just two different types of edging ones. We can do this one similar to what I've done here. So I think I did a similar process, but then just joined it together to make a little floret. But let's see what this one wants to be when it grows up. Oops. And then, yeah, I'll show you one of the round ones as well. We'll just have to grab some fabric to be our base. And you can often find already dyed doilies as well. So ones that have, or sorry, not dyed, but they've been stitched with colourful crochet yarn, or crocheted with colourful yarn. And so, yeah, if you can't dye your own, you could look out for some of those in your op shops and other places. This is an example of something that's already been done in the colourful yarn that I'm thinking I could use in this piece also. Okay, so just then again going down the middle, but you can also go at the bottom and then you get something that looks more like, I got one where I've gathered along the bottom of the piece. Have I got something like that? No, that one's gathered. Yeah, you'd get something that looks more like, let me just show you on this. It's more just going to sort of be coming up from the bottom, but I think for the coral, I quite like it when it's gathered in the middle. For some of the other crochet, I think that's when I'll gather from the bottom. I suppose it's a trick that you've got to still have, you can't push it too far down your needle, otherwise you'll get too far of a gap between the pieces. Just slide them over there. Now you could try sort of gathering it all up with your fingers first and then pushing the needle through, but you might find that's a bit harder for the pushing of the needle through, because even that's quite a bit, I guess this is quite a tightly woven cotton. And it's got the acrylic on it, which does make it sort of stiffer. That's why I do like using the Inktense blocks where I can, but I do realise they are quite an investment. They were something I got for a Christmas and waited delayed gratification on them. And so yeah, I was pleased when I saw the acrylics in Aldi for 99 cents for a tube. And they had some lovely colours, including some really lovely greens and the whites, which is what is good to add to just sort of tone down the colours as well as diluting them down when you use them. So a little will go a long way, and it doesn't matter if they're not your sort of top quality artist paints, because you're not really using them in a painterly way, you're just using them to colour. But again, these sort of softer greens and greeny blues will be a lovely rest against the bright colours from the other dyeing. So I will put a knot in there, pull it down, put a knot in. Oops, come on. Come on, come on. Nope, is it going to behave itself? Just trying to get a knot in the end. Okay. Just gonna knot, I think that's okay. Yep. And again, I won't worry about those little stringy bits at the moment. And again, you can do that process of just twisting it around to kind of get it to be a little bit less regular, and I can get rid of those. Just cut that bit off there, cut my endy bit off there, and that's going to be really useful to add into my little reef. So let's see how one of these, I might change needles for this because this is going to be really tightly woven, so I might just get a finer little needle and a new piece of thread. I do actually have a purple, probably not quite as strong as the nylon, but I can give that a go. Birds are really saying hello to you, aren't they? So we probably won't need the whole piece of ribbon, particularly if we're going to use this for one of our smaller ones. Don't know how many stitches I'll have to put in because it might try and pull through a bit at this end. So I'll try and put a stitch just sort of up like that to start. hopefully it's going to not try and break on me. Oops. Come on, needle, you can go in and out. It's just that sort of initial resistance as you push against that wovenness. Actually, that's going to go quite well, I think. So yeah, just have a look at your odds and sods. Have a look at offcuts. If you're not saving those pieces, maybe think about saving them. So even if you were doing like a little landscape scene or something and wanted it to sort of have some background or some little trees or other elements, that they could be really great to use for that. And you can literally use the tiniest little strips, and even just, it doesn't even have to be an edge piece, just a strip of fabric that maybe you've torn off the edge of something. You can definitely use those. Bits of sari silk would be great, and you can get beautiful colours in sari silk bits that you might have as well. So yeah, I'll probably just do a small one for our miniature, one of our miniature brooch pieces, and then I'll do the other one later for the bigger piece. Just wanted to give you a flavour of lots of different things that you could start working on if you want to sort of follow along with the project, either at smaller scale or at large format, or one of both, or a few of both. I'll probably only make one large format one for now, but I'm sure there will be others in my future as I play with different techniques, different supplies. But yeah, I've got a whole box of goodies that I've looked out from my collection and stuff that I think are going to be great for this. I should have actually also said that the piece of wool that I'm going to use as my base for my brooch, that's actually from a felted jumper that I got at the reverse art truck. So this is some more of it. Oops, as everything tries to come and tumble down upon my desk. And so it was a felted jumper that I then cut up into bits, and there's another part that I'll probably use as part of my larger scale piece. It's got lovely bobbles and all sorts of things on it, but it works really well. It works almost like I guess a wool felt, because it's all felted together. It's got some lovely substance to it, but it's also lovely to stitch into. Managed to get some of my blue threads there, and I've just managed to drop my needle on the floor, on the ground, not the floor when it's outside. Isn't it funny words? It's the floor when you're inside, and then it's the ground when you're outside. So yeah, that's going to be a lovely little corally piece. Excuse me for a moment while I bob down and get the needle, because I don't want to leave that accidentally on the ground and have any calamities for Travis, or indeed me if I come out with bare feet. It's always hard to pick up a needle when it's on the ground. That's when I need a magnet, isn't it? I should put one with my little troubling... I've actually got a magnet in with my beads, but I'm not going to grab the beads out at this juncture in time. I was also going to say that you can, and I don't know if I said this earlier, I don't think I did, you can also use like bright laces that are already coloured up. So I thought this one could be a little bit of fabulousness. And I'm actually wondering for our small reef whether I would actually cut it in half, or is it going to be okay as it is? I think I'd almost go halvies. Then we get double the amount, don't we, out of a single bit of lace, because I really like some of the very tightly smallly done ones. So then you can kind of fit more corals on your reef as well. Right, so I'll put my purple thread back. And I can grab a pink out for this. I've got my pink threads as well. Got all the things. This one's quite a strong thread. Sorry, probably just made the camera go up and down because I banged against it. Yeah, I think that's pretty strong. So yeah, ribbons, just look for colourful bits and bobs you have, and just, yeah, scraps the fabric. You don't need the fancy dyed things that I have done. I think they're going to be particularly good for the bigger scale reef, but certainly interspersed with these other sorts of pieces that I'm making up. I've actually just reached out to one of my fellow art member networks to check exactly when we need to have this this piece done by, our Beetlemania piece. Because this one's, for me, is inspired by Octopus's Garden. Or should it be Octopi? But I've looked at the name and it's called Octopus's Garden. So, yeah, I think I can still just go through the middle of this. But always making that good knot, that strong sort of secure ending piece. Probably for a small brooch, you could even go and cut this into half again, I think. It's a good thing about the lace is it doesn't sort of fray, but even with the fabrics where it frays, that's just going to give you a lovely edge for your coral. Make it like some of that lovely feathery coral. So what are you getting up to today? It's the other side of the world. My lovely friends in the UK, US, etc. You must be coming into warmer weather. Which is funny that we're still in the warm weather while you're coming into warmer weather. So you'll be thinking about your gardens and your summer harvests. I know my friend Tess, she used to often be harvesting lovely things from her garden and making her lovely herbal teas with her own fresh produce. And I was just emailing before with lovely Robin, who is another slow stitchy friend. And she has a wonderful idea for what she's doing with her Nana's travelling rickrack fabric. So sending greetings out to you, Robin, if you're watching. Can't wait to see your idea, but take your time. No one feel pressure. I've had a few people saying, "Oh, you must think I'm sort of terrible or something because I haven't got onto that yet." And I know how it is. I have so many projects on the go. I have so many ideas I want to get to. In fact, I was just talking to my friend Christy, lovely Christy from So Bits Christy, last night about that. That as you work on something, you come up with a million other ideas, and it's sort of like you can only be doing the one thing at once, and sometimes you want to kind of get straight onto that idea, but there's only so many hours in the day. Not everyone gets to stitch every day, so I create projects where there's no pressure, no deadlines. You do you. And I'll love to see everything when everyone does it, and I will still put it all together into a little community collection somewhere, probably an online format. And I know not everyone has Facebook, so I'll find a way best to do that. But yeah, isn't that sweet? Won't that just go so beautifully as a little... I'm very excited to create this little brooch with you, but I'll come back in another episode and we can do some of the stitchy pieces as well. But let me now show you how I create these little tiny little bobular bits, but I also want to show you the ones that I picked up on a trim, which is what I was thinking of when I was at the Embroiderers Guild D-Stash, because I had already made these ones and I thought, oh, aren't they such a similar shape? And I thought I can put some little beading into the top of them and use them similar to these. I'm actually astounded by even how similar they are in size, and I think I can put some, then like I've done on these ones, put some colourful stitching around the outside of them. But let me show you how to make them from these little doily bits. So I've cut these off a larger doily that I had dyed. Let me see if I've got something to show you similar to it. It would be one like, oh yeah, it was exactly like this. So where I've cut these smaller ones out as well as the larger ones, which I've used on the other, that bigger bobbly piece. So what I will do, seeing I've got pink thread in already, I may as well do a little pinky coloured one. So I'll put a knot in the end of my thread. And I'll grab one of my little pinky ones. I'll put a little pearl in the bottom. Actually, I won't do that yet. I'll first of all put a stitch in to hold it, and then I'll gather around the bottom, and then I'll slip the pearl in. I was trying to remember exactly how I came up with these. Let's just make sure that the knot's going to actually hold. Again, I'll put a knot around it to make sure it really is going to stay in place. And a second one for luck. There we go. And then I'll just go around the base, putting a stitch in and out, in and out. So we're basically going to end up sort of gathering it up all the way around. All the way back to where we started. So then grab one of our pearls. I like to put the sort of the holes to the side so you don't see the hole from the top. And then we're just going to stitch across the base to kind of catch and hold the bottom all together. And then this will be attached onto the piece when we're kind of putting the piece together. So you won't see this sort of bottom, but it almost looks like the roots on a piece of seaweed, coral. Is it called roots? I guess seaweed would have roots because it's almost like a plant, isn't it? But coral wouldn't, because it's more of a harder, firmer structure, isn't it? A skeletal structure. But yeah, I love how the little pearl shines out. And yeah, you just want to put enough stitches in that you're sure it's going to kind of hold nice and firm. So tie that one off. There goes the cockatoos. That's only 2 of them, would you believe, making all that raucous. I do think apparently they don't like dogs, and ever since we got Travis, yeah, we don't have the cockatoos come and visit like they used to. There was a time when Alex used to feed them, and there was one day where I think it must have been like 40 or 50 of them came and landed on the roof of the house that's down below us. And we were so embarrassed because the people were looking out their window. They could hear this massive raucous happening on their roof. I think they could see their TV aerial. So we stopped feeding after that. But yeah, when we got Travis, they've decided that this is a sort of a non-visiting place anymore. I probably don't plant as many food crops. Like they loved the sunflowers and the corn. So I haven't planted those the last few years. So yeah, that's without the colourful stitching on it, but let me show you a bit of colourful stitching. Can't remember what colour I was using before. Let's see, find one of them. Was it something, yeah, probably similar to that one. Might have been, I think it was a slightly different colour, but I won't bother trying to find the other colour. I'll just use what I've got. This one's a variegated one, but I don't think the variegation will matter for the task at hand. So hopefully this is giving you lots of ideas, and yeah, I was thinking maybe that miniature version, that sort of brooch size version, might be a good start if you're just starting out with this texture, fibre and textile art pieces. Well, now I've managed to put a knot where I didn't want it. We'll just cut that bit off and make another knot. I was watching lovely Kaylee last night while I was doing some setting up of a shelving in our spare room, one of our spare rooms, and yeah, watching Kaylee sharing her 100-day project, which looks absolutely fantastic. So check out yeah, Kaylee. I think her channel will be listed below, where I list all the well, not all the channels, but the channels of a variety of people that I'm wanting to kind of encourage in their sharing journey, and others that I love to watch, and of course my lovely friends Sally and Christy. But Kaylee's down in that list, so if you look down the list for Kaylee, you'll see her full channel name. I sometimes struggle. I don't know if it's Crafty Creations with Kaylee something. I'm sure it's got craft in it, maybe Creations. Although my friend Kathy Kmar's, is she Kmar's Crafty Creation? Yeah. Again, I am struggling. I've got to catch up on my videos from my lovely friend Heather from Creepy Cutie Crafty. I know she was contemplating a name change of her channel, but I don't think she has changed that. So what I'm doing here is just stitching around and just putting some lovely, it's just a very small detailing, but just so that it then has a different colourful colour detail at the very sort of top of the piece of coral. And on the others I've gone sort of around until I've totally covered the top, but you can just go however you want really. So on this one I wouldn't have to go all the stitches, but I'll probably go twice round at least, just to kind of add that lovely accent of colour. I want to get a bit more there, just add another stitch back in there. Sometimes the stitches don't end up laying quite where you want them to lay. See, this just doesn't want to put a stitch in where I want to see one. I want one to lay just about there. Good. And I've actually got to go back to Aldi because I realise we've run out of washing powder. I buy their nice big washing powders because they're very affordable, but they do a great job. And Aldi this week, as well as having the acrylic paints. Now, I don't often look at the special buys aisle. I spotted that they had these sweet little, well, reasonably sized vintage sort of styled sewing baskets. So I did actually pick 2 up, and I'm thinking they'll make a lovely project to sort of individualise them a bit, because they've got a padded top, so I think I'll be able to stitch in with some beads and some other elements just to add my own little touch to them. I think I've almost gone around twice on this, and so I will. You probably can't see it that well. I'll show you in a moment once I've tied it off. Just take my thread back through there. All this fun. Oh, is that my tail that's gone there? Hang on, let me just pull this bit back into the centre. Just put another stitch in there. If you get a knot or something that's poking out, you can always just, yeah, catch it again. So that's what that one looks like. So lovely little bubble. Sorry, and I'll go back into focus. And so then I was going to show you, let me just put that back into the thong. I was going to show you how you can make one of these. So you'll need some fabric for the inside, you'll need some bit of a doily. Again, you could use a really colourful fabric inside and just use some undyed, just a natural coloured doily, or if you find some that are knitted with or crocheted with a colourful yarn. Another idea I've got, which I haven't formed up, but this is using a lovely piece of, I think, beading that I got from my friend Annie, from Arty Farty Annie Claxton, and I thought this could make a lovely bauble piece like this. It almost looks like it's got a starfish or something sitting on the top of it. Another idea is you could use bits of colourful laces and other things. So many possibilities. I've literally got a box in front of me of just all different laces. This is just one of those cheapy sort of organza ribbons, but I think that will make wonderful coral as well. Even ones like this is just a crafty saver, vintage again, but just these greens, these sorts of ones, all sorts. This purple organza, that's going to be great. Anyway, let's focus on the task at hand. Christine, what colour do we want to make it? Might make one of these purpley coloured ones, I think. So I'm just going to cut between the pieces. And they don't generally, you might get a tiny little bit of unravelling at the edge, but they don't really unravel that much. So that's where they're really, really super. And then what colour do I want? Do I want to go for a purple? I've got some of these lace offcuts from the D-Stash market. Or do I want to go for a brighter pinky ready colour? Or one of these sorts of bluey. I think I might do that one. I like that, I think. So I'll just take a bit of this silk off. These were silk offcuts from the D-Stash market. And I'll probably cut myself a sort of a roughish circle-ish shape. And again, if you had a Suffolk puff maker, you could sort of use probably the larger size for this sort of a size. It's not really a circle, is it? But that's close enough. I'll put those little scraps in my future making pile. I then need to grab my stuffing, which is fallen on the ground. With a little dead spider stuck to it. That's funny. So, just grab some of this off. And then I think we'll almost be at the hour mark with that other earlier video where I accidentally stopped it. So you just want to make it so that when you've got your piece on top of it, you'll be able to kind of join it around. It depends how stuffed you want it to be. I probably don't need to make my job that hard by putting too much stuffing in. And I'll use one of my smaller finer needles. One like this, and I could just use my regular polyester thread. Okay, is there a front or a back? I don't think so really. Trying to remember with this one, did I actually, I don't think it really matters because we're going to actually be kind of wrapping it fully with this, so it probably won't actually matter how I finish the bottom. I can probably just almost, if I want to do the quick and dirty version, I can probably just stitch through from side to side, or no, I think I'll do it this way actually, because then I can get it nice and tightly held. So yeah, I'll just, but otherwise you could follow the method of making a Suffolk puff and then sort of stuffing it. I honestly can't remember, even though it was only probably like a week ago now that I was doing this one. I can't actually remember which technique I used. Oops, and it's going to pull the end through if I pull it too tightly, probably. So I'll just try not to pull too tightly to start, till I get it. And what I might do at this point is just do a few little wraps to start to hold it in place. And so yeah, if you're going to do this, just have a look at coral and sort of then have a look at your supplies and just see if you can start to create some shapes or some things that remind you of things that you see in coral pictures. And you could do one that's just purely neutrals, of course, as well. It doesn't have to be a colourful coral. I saw a beautiful piece and a very thoughtful piece where someone had actually had it graduating up from these wonderful corals to then up to where it was all just white and bleached, where the coral had died, as a bit of a reflection on, yeah, the impact on nature of humans again. We can definitely do better on protecting our beautiful, beautiful nature. Because once it's gone, isn't it? Can't recreate it. We can't AI it. Well, I mean, we can AI it, but it's not going to be there, is it? So what I'll do then is I'll cut this because I'll be able to use this other little piece down here. See, that will be able to be gathered up and make another piece of coral. So it's the sort of project that keeps giving, I think. And then, while I've still got my thread, keeping it nice and tight, I can then start gathering in my endies bits. So this one I think is a bigger one, a bigger sort of circle, but it's good to have ones of different sizes, and it all just depends what doily you're using. So it's good to show you a different shape. But for my little coral reef, I'll probably stick with these shape-sized ones. This will be for my bigger piece. Ouch. Try not to stick my finger. So I try to just sort of go side to side, picking up bits as I go. And then for our art group, our winter exhibition is called Winter Escape, and it's anything you want for winter escape. So I'm thinking something really bright and vibrant, similar to my sort of Fleur Woods piece, or maybe I don't know. I don't think I'd be able to get the Fleur Woods piece finished in time for that one. But maybe one of my smaller pieces, maybe a vessel. Don't know. But it can be any format. But yeah, I'd like to use some really vibrant colours. I'm in very much a vibrant colour mode at the moment. In fact, maybe that's a real chance to do, or maybe I'll try and do my vibrant coloured doily dress for that. Wouldn't that be amazing? That would be a winter escape. It would be a winter escape through clothing, wouldn't it? Or maybe making a coat, covering a coat. Thinking aloud with you all. I definitely do. I've got quite a few little clothing projects planned, and yeah, I was musing with my friends Sally and Christy as part of our whimsical wearables. We're thinking that can include clothing as well. So there you go. That is the little, and wouldn't that make a cute little pin cushion as well? If you just put that in a little project bag. So again, those are going to be absolutely wonderful, used in with all the pieces. Let me just start to show you how things start to come together. I'm going to bring over these pieces. Some of these are obviously the smaller ones but it all just starts to come together. That's just starting to form up a coral reef, but how beautiful is that going to be, and at a large scale as well as a little miniature version as well. And I'm planning to use some of the little fish and other things I got at the D-Stash market. This isn't one that I got at the D-Stash, but it's a beautiful one that you could add if you've got any little fish or starfish, little pendants or little charms. They'll be beautiful to add into your piece as well. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Hopefully it's given you lots of ideas If you want to make a brooch with me, work out what you want to use as a base. Like you could use a bit of blanket. I'd use a thickish blanket, or a piece of felt or something like that. You want something with a bit of substance just to hold its weight, and you'll need one of those little brooch clips to sew onto the back. Have I got one handy to show you? It's probably hiding under layers upon layers. Oh, there we go. One of these sorts of little brooch clips, and these are just some of the other little fish and starfish charms that I found in my stash. So yeah, lots of ideas there, and thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye.